So welcome back to the channel, guys. I feel like a lot has happened since I last made a video and spoke to you, really. Obviously, Luton have parted company with manager Graham Jones. It's looking unlikely that League 1 and League 2 are going to be able to be finished. You know, a lot of different scenarios are put in place at the moment about the Championship in the Premier League. A lot of different things are being spoken about. I took a couple of weeks off from making videos, but I'm back now, and over the next few weeks I do have quite a bit of stuff planned. So if you do go to enjoy today's video, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. So what I thought we'd focus on today is go through each Championship club's current longest serving player, because one thing that did cross my mind was it would be pretty good if like the rest of the season had to be played behind closed doors and some of these players were going to be leaving at the end of the season, and if they didn't get the send-off they deserved. So how we're going to do it, we're going to go through every Championship club. We're going to go from the player who's been at that club for the least amount of time and end with the player who's been there for the most amount of time, if that makes sense, through every club. So without any further ado, let's hop into this one. Starting out in 24th at the bottom, we do have Daniel Batty, Hull City's longest serving player. At only 22 years old. He came through the youth ranks there at Hull, but we're judging this on his time, what he has spent in the first team. So he got promoted up to the first team in the 2016/17 season. That was while they were in the Premier League, and then he then made his debut for the club the next year. I found it quite interesting that he was actually their longest serving player, obviously, after Grosicki and Bowen had left in January. That now leaves Batty. A decent defensive midfielder. I think Hull fans still have quite high hopes for him of what he could, you know, go on to become in the future. In 23rd, we got Jacob Brown from Barnsley, and it's pretty much the same story as Daniel Batty. Came through the youth ranks there and has been there since the same season, 16/17. This season, Jacob Brown's been quite an interesting one. If Barnsley do go on and get relegated, I wouldn't be surprised to see someone take a punt on him in the Championship. I think that this season he stacked up some really decent numbers, 8 assists and 2 goals. At only 22 years old, when he's utilised in the right system, I think could be a really effective player at this level. He's shown it this season that he can cut it. In 22nd, we have Rico Henry of Brentford, another youngster that gets onto this list. You'd expect that, you know, a club's longest serving player will be someone in the twilight of their career, but it's not been the case for the first few people on this list. Rico Henry, Brentford picked him up from Walsall in 2016. A lot of the time when we're speaking about Brentford, we of course speak about their attacking exploits and how good they've been going forward this season, but defensively they've also been excellent, and they played a couple of systems. You know, Rico Henry's played either as a fullback or a wing back this season when they were playing that 3 at the back system. He's another player who I think can go on and achieve quite big things in the game. In at 21st, we have Matty Cash, another youngster, being at Nottingham Forest for 1,407 days. He was promoted up to the first team in the 15/16 season and then made his debut the next year. But it has been this season and his transition into a fullback which has really sort of elevated his game. I mean, what is there to say about Matty Cash that has been said already? One thing I'd say about Nottingham Forest squad is the amount of players that they've had there in like the last 5 years or so has been absolutely mind-blowing. Like, they just keep churning out different squads year upon year, but Matty Cash has been the one player who has been there the longest, and I'm sure that all the Forest fans will be hoping that they're still going to get a few more years of him there to come. In 20th, we have Grant Hall of Queen's Park Rangers, the first sort of senior player that we've actually got on this list, which is a bit surprising, but Grant Hall, great servant for QPR. He's been there for 1,742 days, being at the club since 2015. In his debut season there, I think got the Supporters Player of the Year, was really consistent in that season. Followed it up with a decent one, but then after that sort of injury started to creep into his game, he missed a sizable chunk of the next few seasons. This season though, I think he has got back on track, and we did actually speak about him in the last video when I was ranking Championship captain. When fit, probably their best centre-back and a really consistent performer for them. He's showed that this season with his goal threat going forward as well. In 19th, we got Michael Jacobs of Wigan Athletic, someone who doesn't necessarily always grab the headlines for them, but has been a consistent performer for them throughout the years. Played a vital role in both their promotions from League 1. He's been at the club since 2015, has made over 175 appearances for the club. In those 2 promotion seasons from League 1, he got into double figures for goals scored. He's someone who can play sort of anywhere across the forward line, either to the left or the right, or as a number 10. In 18th, we got Mikel Kieftenbeld of Birmingham, and I mean, what a journey he's had at Birmingham. There's been a lot that's happened in his Birmingham career. He signed for them in 2015. He's made like over 160 appearances for the club, loves to fly into a tackle. Perhaps the most bizarre thing though was when he signed for Derby on deadline day, but then the transfer actually didn't end up going through and he stayed at Birmingham. It was a bit of a mad time. I do enjoy watching him though, I'm not going to lie, he does break things up well in midfield. In 17th, we got Corey Smith of Bristol City, another player who we spoke about in our last video when we were ranking Championship captains. He's been at the club since 2014, was part of that promotion with Bristol City from League 1, signed for them that season. Looking back on that Bristol City side, what a team they had for League 1. You know, Corey Smith was in there, Aidan Flint, Joe Bryan, Marlon Pack, Luke Ayling, Aaron Wilbraham and Kieran Agar were working off each other. It was such an iconic League One team, but Corey Smith, really unfortunate with injuries, but when he is fully fit, a really good player for them. In 16th, we have Gaetano Berardi of Leeds United. He's been at the club since 2014, and with all the turbulence that's gone on at Leeds behind the scenes, you know, in the last 5 or so years, for a player to make it through that entirety of, you know, God knows how many managers they've had during that spell, a fair play to Berardi. And I think that I've been quite guilty of underrating him in the past. You know, I've always seen him as a bit of a loose cannon, and although he can be that maybe at times, maybe in the past, whenever he's been called upon this season or lately, he's been so reliable. And it does take, you know, a certain kind of player to be able to last at Leeds through all the mayhem that's gone on lately. I think you just got to respect Berardi for that. In 15th, we have Sean Williams of Millwall. What a servant to the club. He's been making over 250 appearances. He signed for them in January 2014. He was obviously a massive part of their promotion and has been a part of that spine that's been so solid for Millwall now for the, you know, the best part of half a decade. Even now in the Championship at the age of 33, he still makes them tick in the midfield, breaking things up. I mean, when he does eventually leave, they've certainly got a job of replacing him. In 14th, we have Luton Town's Pele Rudikampanzu. When you talk about iconic players and someone who's been at a club for the whole journey of their rise, you look at Mpanzu. He's been at Luton since their time in the conference and has seen their rise up English football, now playing with them in the Championship, and such an underrated player in general in the footballing ladder. Like, he's a brilliant box-to-box midfielder with a brilliant engine on him, got an eye for goal as well. At only 26 as well, I still think there's a lot more to come from him. In 13th place, we have Corey Evans of Blackburn Rovers. Up until he got injured this season, I thought he was doing really well for Blackburn, and probably not with Blackburn fans, but amongst fans of the Championship in general, probably quite an underrated midfielder actually. He fractured his skull in the game against Northend, really nasty injury. But like I say, before that, he was actually putting in some really consistent performances for Blackburn in the centre of the pitch. He is someone who leads by example on the pitch, and I think he's almost racked up 200 appearances for Rovers. In 12th position, we have Jonathan Hogg of Huddersfield Town, an absolute general in the middle for them. You know, Schindler may have the armband at times, but, you know, Hogg is like the leader without the armband. He is a brilliant enforcer in midfield, played a massive role in their promotion to the Premier League. This season, when other people's levels really dipped, I think that Jonathan Hogg was one of those players who always does give things his all and drags other people up with him. Another really underrated defensive midfielder for me. In 11th, we then go to Derby County and to Craig Forsyth. Now, Forsyth, I think, is the definition of injury prone. He's been so unlucky with injuries throughout his career. I think he's had 3 separate ACL injuries, which is, I mean, one player, you know, struggles to come back from one ACL usually. Craig Forsyth's done that 3 times. The game this season that he returned to action was actually against Northend. I think he'd gone like over 350 days without playing football. He was back in the squad against Preston, and he was brilliant as Derby beat us that day. He was initially on loan at Derby in 2013, then went on to sign for them later on in the summer. He's made just over, I think, 150 appearances, so despite him being there for so long, he's not made as many appearances as other people at this part of the list because of the injuries he's picked up, which is unfortunate. Moving into the top 10, in 10th place, we have George Friend of Middlesbrough, signing for them in the summer of 2012. He's been an ever-present member of that Borough side over the years. I think he's just shy of playing 300 games for Middlesbrough, which is absolutely astonishing. And over the years, he has just been Mr. Reliable for them, as of course part of that promotion squad to the Premier League, and he's had some great moments with them. In 9th place, we have Kieran Lee of Sheffield Wednesday. Wednesday have had quite a few players who have been at the club for a while, but Kieran Lee just about makes it as their longest serving player, signing for them also in the summer of 2012. Now, before I made this video, I went back and watched a couple of clips of Kieran Lee from back in the day, and I think that, I mean, Wednesday fans won't have forgot, but this guy, between the years of sort of 2013 to sort of 2017, what an unbelievable Championship player. Like, when Wednesday were really gunning for promotion, Kieran Lee was like at the centre of it, and he was such an intelligent player for them, you know, his positional sense, the way he'd make them tick. Unfortunately, lately, injuries have hampered him a little bit, and that has seen him slow down in recent years, but back in the day, what a cracking player. In 8th position, we got Gareth McCleary from Reading, also signing for them in the summer of 2012, moved over from Nottingham Forest to Reading while they were a Premier League club. Quite similar to Kieran Lee in many aspects, where although in recent years he has slowed down, you know, he doesn't really get in and around the squad anymore, especially as much as he used to, and he's not sort of the most impactful player. Back in the day, though, he was an absolute absolutely explosive winger. I mean, that season where Reading made it to the playoff final under Jaap Stam when they finished third, the 16-17 season, McCleary was absolutely like untouchable. He was absolute gold dust going forward. In 7th place we have Paul Huntington of Preston North End, racking up 280 appearances for the Lily Whites. What an absolutely iconic figure Paul Huntington has been for us. He is sort of like the figure of our transformation from the struggling side in League One to the team we are now in the Championship going for promotion. Paul Huntington has been at the centre of that. He was brought in under Graham Wesley in the summer of 2012 under a whole bunch of turbulence that surrounded the Wesley era. He scored in the playoff final against Swindon at Wembley, scored 9 goals in our promotion season as captain does on multiple occasions. The Cumbrian Cannavaro, as all the North End fans like to call him, he is, I would say, the biggest cult hero that Preston have got in the squad at the moment. Everyone loves him. Even this season, you know, we've had such a good partnership between Davis and Bauer. Huntington was sort of brought out of the cold for a brief spell, and he was fantastic. He always plays with his heart on his sleeve, and you just love this sort of play. He's an absolute icon. In 6th position, we then have Joe Ralls. He came through the academy at Cardiff City. He's been there all his career. He was promoted up into the first team in the 11/12 season. Cardiff were short on players for a brief amount of time, and Ralls was one of the people who was called up to the first team during that spell. It would take up until sort of 2014 where he get to be sort of a regular member of that starting 11, and then from then on has pretty much been an ever-present member of the team. In the Championship, he always stacks up decent numbers for goals and assists so far this season, already chipping in with 6. In 5th place, we then have Marcus Bettinelli of Fulham. It always surprises me how old Bettinelli is. He's only 27. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like it's probably because he broke through at such a young age, but it feels like he's been around for absolutely ages. But Bettinelli signed his first professional contract with Fulham in July 2010, although it wouldn't be until I think 2014 until he eventually made his debut for Fulham. But obviously Bettinelli throughout the years has had his, you know, up and down moments with Fulham. I think it's fair to say he was a massive part of their promotion squad that did get up to the Premier League. During a lot of his time there, he's had other goalkeepers to compete with a lot of the time. This season's been a prime example of that. Obviously we've seen the breakthrough of Rodak this season. In 4th position, we then have Nathan Dyer of Swansea City, and what a team Swansea have had throughout the years. And Nathan Dyer, what an unbelievable player he's been for them. The years of service that he's given to the club, he initially came on loan there in the 08/09 season, signed for them the season after that, has gone on to rack up over 340 appearances for them. The Swansea side has changed, you know, drastically throughout the years, you know, from that team that got promoted up to the Premier League through the team through the Premier League years and now back in the Championship. But Dyer's been a part of all of that. Dyer's had some top moments with Swansea though, and in, you know, Swansea's peak when they played like that brilliant passing possession-based football in the Premier League, Dyer was a sublime footballer to watch. In 3rd place, we have Charlton Athletics' Chris Solly, racking up over 300 appearances for the club. He came through the Charlton Academy a couple weeks ago. I did a video on ranking every Championship academy. Charlton's is right up there, but we usually see the players moving on. But Chris Solly's been someone who's always stuck it out with Charlton, been there his whole career. The ever-dependent defender. I mean, he's going to go down as an absolute club legend for them, isn't he? He made his debut for them in the 08/09 season, and then since then, I mean, he's gone through sort of all the highs and lows that Charlton have had to offer over the years. Coming in 2nd place, then we have West Brom legend Chris Brunt. He's beaten to the #1 spot by 5 days, so there really is nothing in it between these top two. But Chris Brunt signed for West Brom on the 14th of August 2007. Now, I did speak about Chris Brunt in my last video, and it's fair to say some West Brom fans, they had some things to say about what I said about Chris Brunt in that video. Basically, I don't think I phrased what I said about Chris Brunt as well as I probably could have. This comment that Matt left, a West Brom fan, pretty much perfectly sums up my thoughts on Chris Brunt and put it into a way that I didn't say in the video. So this is Matt's comment that he put. Can see why you'd struggle with Brunt, as he's a bit of an oddball. On the pitch, no, I wouldn't call him a leader who would rally the troops and single-handedly push the team over the line. But off the pitch and in the dressing room, I think he's still an absolutely integral part of the club. The amount of voluntary work he does in the area with the Football Foundation is second to none. And in the dressing room, away from the pitch, he's one of the most level-headed and grounded people you can ever hope to have at your club. He knows what the club means and what it represents. He's always involved with the fans somehow. To West Brom supporters, he's basically the lifeblood of the club and will certainly go down as one of the few modern day club legends. I mean, he's played over 400 games for West Brom, scoring 48 goals in the process. You know, he's been there in the Championship, in the Premier League, all the way in between. You know, there's no taking away from the impact that Brunt's had at West Brom. But coming in first place and as the longest serving player in the Championship, we do have Stoke City's Ryan Shawcross. Signing for Stoke on August 9th, 2007. Initially on loan, it was then made permanent in January that season. He signed from Man United. In the end, the fee rose to I think £2 million, but I think Stoke fans will agree they got a good return on that investment. Making over 440 appearances for the club, when you think of like peak Pulis ball, the first two players you think of, for me at least, are Robert Huth and Ryan Shawcross. Like, they were at the centre of that. I think he's forever going to be an iconic and legendary player for Stoke for what he's given to them. But guys, there you have it. There's every Championship club and their longest serving player ranked from how long they've had at the club there. So leave a like if you did go on to enjoy today's video, guys. Feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments down below for future videos that you'd like to see as well. But apart from that, that will wrap it up for today, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.